You want healthy, glowing skin, but with all the products, trends, and conflicting advice, it's hard to know what actually works. I understand. I am Dr. Tiina, a former cardiologist and specialist in the skincare development and cosmetic safety expert. I've spent years studying the science of skin. Welcome to Medder Beauty podcast, where we uncover what really matters, break down the science, and give you real expert-backed skincare advice. Whether you're looking to achieve radiant, healthy skin, curious about anti-aging, or want to understand what's really in your product, you are in the right place. Rooted in science and the truth about what your skin actually needs, we'll have in-depth conversations with leading dermatologists, medical experts, and skincare brand founders to bring you the latest innovations, evidence-based insights, and industry secrets that truly make a difference. We are so happy you are here. So let's go! Sun care and the sun damage of the skin. It is the topic of many discussions these days. And some of them, they are based on the stereotypes, and some stereotypes are more beneficial than others. But I believe that before we start to speak about the sun care and sun protection, we should understand better how sun rays affect the skin and why the ultraviolet damage can be so dangerous. First of all, let's discuss about sun rays. Obviously, sun rays, it's not only the ultraviolet. In sun rays, we have about 40% of visible light, 50% of the infrared light, and only 10% of the ultraviolet. And all these kind of lights we call radiation. Visible light and the infrared radiation affect skin less, despite that infrared can hit the skin and it can be dangerous for capillary system, especially when the skin is sensitive. But the most damaging radiation from sun rays, obviously, it is the ultraviolet. And ultraviolet affect the skin differently because they are rays of different wavelengths. The shortest wavelengths, it is the ultraviolet type C radiation. They are most dangerous, but fortunately, they are very short. About 100% of them are blocked by ozone layers in our planet atmospheres. With the one exception. When the ozone layers is thin, and in some places on our planet, ozone layers is so thin, we call it ozone holes. And in other places, you can be just near to the ozone layer, so you can get some part of the ultraviolet type C radiation. It happens when you're hiking in the mountain, very high in high altitude. Also, it can happen at the same time, for example, in Chile mountains. There are a few places when ozone layers is very thin, and also mountains are very high. So ultraviolet type C can affect the skin there, and it is real cosmic radiation, so it can be very intense and dangerous for the human being. Another type of the ultraviolet, they are ultraviolet type B. This type of radiation has the wavelength longer than ultraviolet type C, so it cannot be blocked by the ozone layers, and even it cannot be blocked totally and completely by the glass. So some part of this ultraviolet penetrates through the glass and penetrates into the skin. But ultraviolet type B, as it is shorter wavelength, it penetrates only in the superficial layer of the skin, like epidermis. And it doesn't affect dermis most of the time in the healthy skin. If your epidermis is thinner, like it happens in the mature, aged, or damaged skin, or in the skin after chemical peels or laser resurfacing, type B ultraviolet can penetrate deeper. But in the healthy skin, it stays in the epidermis. Still dangerous, but more superficial. And finally, the longest wavelength, they are ultraviolet type A. Type A ultraviolet is less damaging, but it penetrates deeper. It penetrates into the dermis and can affect even fat tissue. So despite is slightly weaker than shortest ray of the ultraviolet, because shortest wavelength of the radiation is, more damaging potential it has. It is still dangerous for the human health. And speaking about different rays of the ultraviolet, type B is partially blocked by the atmosphere, so we have, fortunately, only 5% of them. But the ultraviolet type A, we have literally about 90-95% of the radiation issued by the sun. But still, we should remember that our ancestors, they've been born, bred, and lived all their life on the planet Earth, not on the planet Venus or Neptune or somewhere else. For thousands and thousands of years, human beings evolved on our planet. And the sun radiation was one of the major factors for biological life on our planet. So it is not purely damaging. And we should not speak about sun rays and even about the ultraviolet like it is something absolutely bad. So we should put some cosmic space suits and hide from the sun all the time. No. Moderate exposure to the ultraviolet, the exposure which doesn't cause a significant tanning response on our skin, or especially inflammation and sunburn, it is beneficial. First and foremost, the ultraviolet rays, they stimulate the synthesis of vitamin D in our skin. And the skin is the only place when vitamin D can be synthesized. And vitamin D is absolutely crucial for our health. It is responsible for bones development. Why it is so important to see some amount of sun during the early days and early years for baby and children development, because that's how the bones can develop. Also, it is very important for joints, for our muscles, for our nervous system, and even for our digestive system and for our lungs. So literally for all organs and tissues in our body. But once again, this exposure should be moderate. Also, ultraviolet rays affect the synthesis of melatonin in our body. And melatonin, it is a hormone which run and direct our circadian rhythms in the body. That's how we live, how our body has the circadian regulation during the day and nighttime, which is also very important for us. Melatonin, it is a hormone which run our sleep cycles. So if your body doesn't produce melatonin, you cannot sleep well. And sleep is very important for the human health, as all of us know. And also sun rays, and especially the ultraviolet, activate the synthesis of happiness hormones in our body, endorphins and serotonin. That's why we feel happier when we see the sun, why we feel happier in the summertime. Also, ultraviolet helps to reduce the risk of infection of respiratory tracts, reduces significantly the risk of the tuberculosis infection. It enhances the immune response in our body and slightly suppresses the immune reaction of our skin. So it's still controlled and moderate, but still useful for our body and protects us perfectly. And quite recently, it was found that the moderate exposure to the ultraviolet rays can play a very beneficial role in the treatment and control of diabetes, first types, some mental health conditions, including schizophrenia and autism. And also, it can be good for people suffering from cardiovascular diseases and even autoimmune diseases. So it has a lot of beneficial effect when it is moderate. But what happens when the exposure to the ultraviolet is excessive or prolonged? Unfortunately, it activates the oxidative stress in our skin and in our body altogether. It suppresses significantly the immune system of our skin, triggers the skin aging, which we call premature. So you can develop wrinkles, your skin can be sagging even in your young age if you've been exposed to the ultraviolet and your skin been burned a few times in a row. Also, it can provoke inflammatory changes of the skin. It can provoke the pigmentary disorders because the ultraviolet activates the synthesis of pigment on our skin. It's our protective reaction. And when we are overexposed to the ultraviolet, pigments will be synthesized unevenly, forming the pigment spot and sometimes the depigmented area. And it creates this cumulative effect when our skin starts to lose the regular structure. So it leads to the atrophy of the skin, loss of elasticity of the skin. And the most dangerous thing, then it damages the DNA of skin cells, provoking and triggering the cancer development. It can be very dangerous, but how ultraviolet rays affect the skin? Does it just burn everything? Actually not. We have the structure in our skin which are responsible for absorb ultraviolet more than other area in the skin. And these structures we call chromophore. They are small structures in the skin which are colored. Chromo, it is a color. And when something in our skin is colored, we do not see it because it can be invisible. It can be hidden in the epidermis and especially in the dermis, but everything what has color just absorbs the ultraviolet rays, and these ultraviolet rays excite this pigmented spot. And this pigmented spot just spread the oxidation all around them, activating the inflammation process in the skin and damaging all other skin structures. So, as you can guess, more chromophores you have in the skin, more potential skin damage can be created by the ultraviolet. Probably you ask yourself, what are these chromophores? It is not so enigmatic. First, they are pigmented spots. So it's the vicious circles. The ultraviolet triggers the pigmentation in the skin. When the pigmentation is triggered, the pigmentation becomes the point of attraction for the ultraviolet rays. So it increases the risk of the skin damage all around the pigmentation. So when you have some hyperpigmentation, melasma, chloasma, pigment spots, you should treat it. It's not only about the aesthetics. It's about the potential skin damage in the near future. Also, there can be hematoma because hemoglobin can be the chromophore as well, attracting skin rays. And that's why when you have some hematoma, especially after skin damage, skin trauma, after aesthetic procedures, it increases the risk of the ultraviolet-induced skin damage. So once again, we should prevent it and we should treat it. And if you have some of this unwanted change in your skin after some trauma of your skin, especially in the open area, you should avoid the exposure to the ultraviolet until the moment when it is properly treated. And all kinds of inflammatory changes, they also produce these chromophores in the area of the inflammation. So if you have acne, if you have some dermatosis, it increases the risk of the local skin damage by the ultraviolet. Same thing about the capillary. When capillary are broken, this broken capillary became the point of attraction for future sun damage by the ultraviolet. And all the time when the chromophore is excited and spreads this inflammation and damage around them, it creates the local oxidative stress, which can be spread it all around in this area. Some substances which we apply on the skin and which we use in the skincare also can be chromophore. And amongst them, bad news, retinol. That's why you should not use retinol during the daytime. If you are using some retinol-based skincare, it should be applied at night only, because during the daytime, it's acting as a chromophore, absorbing the ultraviolet, exciting and spreading the information all around them. And also it can be even some pigments used in the makeup, especially blue and red pigments mixed with some oils and lipids. Another part of the skin damage by the ultraviolet, it is a damage of the skin microbiome. The skin microbiome is absolutely crucial for the skin health. We delegate a lot of functions and essential work to our microfriends, such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, and even some protozoa. When our microbiome is healthy, it helps us to produce lipids, it helps us to produce water-holding substances among them, and also it creates this first lane of the antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal protection. So if some kind of pathogenic microorganisms attack the skin, our microbiome deals with it. And also the microbiome protects our skin with antioxidant because most of the skin bacteria and most of the skin beneficial fungi, they are synthesizing powerful antioxidant every minute, protecting our skin from the ultraviolet and air pollution in the same time. But if our skin microbiome is somehow damaged, it becomes less diverse and it changes the balance. And despite we still have the microbiome on our skin, we lose this prevalence of the beneficial bacteria and our other microorganisms. And we have more of potentially dangerous inflammatory bacteria on our skin. And that's what happens when our microbiome exposed to the ultraviolet longer than it is safe. First, the ultraviolet has this disinfecting ability. It literally kills bacteria, viruses, and everything. At some point, it is good because you remember it prevents even the tuberculosis. So people in the sunny area of our planet, they suffer from the tuberculosis less. Also, in the summertime, we don't have this epidemic of the flu because viruses are eliminated by the ultraviolet. But on our skin, we need them. We need viruses, we need this bacteria. So when it is exposed to the ultraviolet, the big part of our microbiome will be just eliminated, like using the disinfection. And another part of the sun damage to the microbiome is indirect, because the ultraviolet damaging lipids, it's oxidizing lipids, and it leads to the thickening of the stratum corneum, the most superficial layer of our skin. That's how our skin tries to protect itself. And when we have too much of the keratin on the skin surface, and this keratin is mixed up with oxidized lipids, it creates the hostile environment for the healthy microbiome. And our beneficial microorganisms just cannot survive in this environment. And we have the growing of inflammatory bacteria, such as Staphylococcus aureus, such as Cutibacterium acnes in inflammatory strains. And our beneficial lactic microflora is just leaving our skin. So from these two parts, we have direct damage of the skin via chromophores spreading the inflammation and activating oxidative stress in deeper layer of the skin. And we have the superficial damage via microbiome, directly and indirectly. And all the things leads to different damage of different skin structure. Ultraviolet type A and ultraviolet type B, they damage the skin differently. As you remember, ultraviolet type A, they are longest rays. The wavelength of this type of the ultraviolet is longer, so it penetrates into the skin deeper. It penetrates into the dermis. And ultraviolet type A is responsible for the tanning. So when your skin becomes darker, when your skin changes the color, it means then ultraviolet type A penetrated into the skin sufficiently. But in the same time, ultraviolet type A doesn't create the significant inflammation. When it penetrates into the dermis, it activates the synthesis of the pigment in the pigment cells, melanocytes. It breaks down collagen and elastin kind of directly, and it damages the DNA of skin cells in the deep, the DNA of the fibroblasts. Also, it suppresses the immune system. So this effect, there are more long distance, let's say it. And why I always try to explain it as much as I can to patients and to customers, because you should understand that even if you didn't suffer from the sunburns, even if you feel comfortable after being on the beach or just walking on the street using the sunscreen, but your skin is tanned, it means an ultraviolet type A damages your collagen and damages your elastin. And darker your skin after the exposure to the ultraviolet, more potential damage of the collagen in your skin will be. And we synthesize collagen actively until 25, 27 years. After this age, our ability to synthesize, to produce collagen, much more limited. So our goal in this age is to not boost collagen production. It's mostly to preserve existing collagen in our skin, because collagen is a long-lasting fibers. The half-life of the collagen is about 15 years. So everything you produced by your skin when you've been 25, very probably will stay in your skin until 50. Under one condition: if your skin wasn't exposed to the ultraviolet type A excessively. And that's what happens when you're tanning. So all these beautiful sunscreens that some people love so much, saying then, oh my God, I found this sunscreen, it protects me, but in the same time, I'm still tanned. They're not so beautiful. They're not perfect. They're far from being perfect. Sunscreen should protect your skin not only from the discomfort and sunburn, it should protect your skin from tanning as well. Yes, you can be slightly tanned. It can be relatively healthy, but if your skin is really changing the color, you should know then you broke your collagen, you broke your elastin, and you are on the way to the skin sagging and the wrinkles development. I'm sorry to say it, but it is the truth. Ultraviolet type B, they are shorter rays. So they don't penetrate into the dermis if the skin is healthy. Once again, if the surface of the skin, if the superficial layer of the skin was thinned because of some aesthetic treatments such as chemical peels or laser resurfacing or something else, or your skin is mature enough and the epidermis started to thin because of the age-related changes, your dermis can be exposed to the ultraviolet type B as well. And ultraviolet type B is more aggressive. Type B rays, they are responsible for the cancer development. They are damaging the DNA significantly. And ultraviolet type B, they are rays which are causing melanoma, non-melanoma cancer, including basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and other. It's leading to the uncontrolled cell growth, so it is not about aesthetic. It's about your health, because skin cancer, unfortunately, it's difficult to treat. And also, ultraviolet type B, they are contributing a lot to the skin aging. Sun-induced skin aging, the wrinkles development, and also the breakdown of collagen and elastin. But they contribute differently. Type A ultraviolet rays, they are causing mostly lines, deep wrinkles, and skin sagging, because they are breaking collagen and elastin directly into the deep layers of the skin. Type B of the ultraviolet is causing fine lines, crinkles, and skin dehydration, skin dryness, and also leading to the hyperkeratosis of the skin. And obviously, the pigmentation. Just type A will provoke more deeper pigmentation, and type B will provoke more localized and more superficial pigmentation, which is more visible, by the way. And also type B ultraviolet rays, they are causing immunosuppression. So they make your skin more vulnerable to infections, including fungal infections, and including some skin dermatosis. Like atopic dermatitis can be provoked by the prolonged exposure to the ultraviolet, eczema, rosacea in the very first place, because rosacea, it is genetically predisposed condition when the skin is less protected naturally against the ultraviolet and more vulnerable to the ultraviolet stress. So it can be a lot of damage caused by the type B rays as well as type A rays. Despite we're still producing the vitamin D, and it is crucial for our health, but that's a big difference between moderate exposure and prolonged exposure. So how we can find a way to enjoy the sun healthily and safely without damaging our skin? For this, we should understand what are factors defining the intensity of the skin damage caused by the ultraviolet rays. Because in some situations, our skin suffers much less and the sun exposure can be quite healthy. But in some situations, you should avoid the sun totally and you should stay indoors. And there are a lot of factors. Among them, they are geographical position, where you are. It is an altitude of your position against where you are, but it's mostly not about the geographical location, but about the your position kind of mountain or valley. The season of the year, because sun rays affect our planet differently during the year. Time of the day, obviously, morning, day, evening. I hope everyone knows that the ultraviolet is the most intense and most damaging during the midday. Also, weather conditions can change the intensity of the ultraviolet and the air pollution. And also, let's not forget about different kind of reflective surfaces around you. And there can be some inner factors, like your individual skin sensitivity to the ultraviolet and skin conditions. Healthy skin is protected better naturally, and when the skin is unhealthy, the natural protection against the ultraviolet is also damaged. So first, let's discuss about geography and altitude. Obviously, the situation in Sweden or Florida is completely different. In the area of our planet nearer to the equator, skin is affected by the ultraviolet much more intensely. In the higher altitude, like northern country, Scandinavian country, the sun is less intense. But also it can be changed by the altitude. In the mountain, you have more of the ultraviolet radiation. Just because the ultraviolet rays, they penetrate into our atmosphere and they are partially blocked by different layers of the atmosphere. You remember that ultraviolet type B, only 5% of it affects our skin when you are on the sea level. But if you'll be 5,000 meters higher, that will be probably 20 or 30% of the ultraviolet type B penetrating into your skin. In some area of the air, there will be ozone holes or just thinner layer of ozone. So once again, much more of the ultraviolet will penetrate into the atmosphere and you are in the higher risk of the skin damage. But also in some area of our planet, the ultraviolet can be literally absent, especially during some seasons of the year. In spring and the summer, the sun rays hit the Earth at the more direct angle. When the angle is more direct, the distance is shorter, so you have more of the ultraviolet penetrating in the skin. If the angle is changed, you have less of the ultraviolet penetrating into the skin because the distance is changing significantly. So in the autumn and the winter months, in some area of our planet, higher the latitude is, more of this effect, direct and indirect angle you will see, will affect the skin less. So when you are near to the equator, when you are in tropics, the angle will be direct most of the days in the year. When you are in Scandinavia, the angle will be direct only for the short period of the year during the midsummer. And in the winter, the ultraviolet can be absent in the atmosphere. In some countries over the world, like Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, Estonia, it is the kind of polar night by the ultraviolet when from end of November until the mid-February or even a little bit later, ultraviolet doesn't penetrate into the atmosphere, or penetrates into the atmosphere is very low amount. So that's no need to protect your skin during the December or January when you are living in Stockholm. But in the same time, if you live in Miami, you should protect your skin, even in the Christmas day, even if it is cloudy. To understand the angle, how the sun affects the planet, we have this very simple, the shadow rule. It's very easy to use. That shadow rule is about the sun safety. This rule helps to determine the intensity of the sun ultraviolet based on the length of your shadow. How it works? You just look at your shadow. When your shadow is shorter than you are, it means the sun is high and the rays are stronger and more intense and more damaging for your skin. If your shadow is equal to you, that's about 45 degrees of angle. So it affects your skin more moderately. If the shadow is much longer than you are, so the angle is quite safe and the ultraviolet affects your skin less. If you paid attention to your shadow at least once in your life, you know that your shadow is much longer in the morning time and at the evening time. That's when the ultraviolet damages the skin less. It can be not absolutely safe, but it is much safer than during the midday. When you see that your shadow is shorter than you are, please go to the shadow. Avoid being exposed to the direct sunlight. Unfortunately, the shadow rule doesn't work in the mountain. So if you are in the mountain, please use intense sun protection all the time. Weather can be tricky because a lot of people, they think if you cannot see the sun cannot see you. It doesn't work this way. Clouds are still transparent for the ultraviolet. They are not made from the ozone, so they cannot block the whole ultraviolet radiation. So even in the very cloudy day, the ultraviolet intensity can be quite high. And humidity of the air and the rain can also affect the ultraviolet intensity. Paradoxically, it increases the intensity of the ultraviolet radiation. Why? Because the high humidity, all these micro droplets and drops of the rain, they work like a micro lenses, intensifying the ultraviolet radiation. So it still can affect your skin and still can burn your skin. What can absorb the ultraviolet radiation? Paradoxically, it is the dust and the sun. So in the windy day, when you have a lot of suns, it can absorb a little bit of the ultraviolet, but it can be still dangerous for your skin because sandy wind, it's natural dermabrasion, making your skin thinner, eliminating your superficial layer of protection and making your skin more vulnerable. So the sun and the snow and the water, they reflect the ultraviolet. So you can be in the double danger on the beach because you have the ultraviolet rays affecting your skin from the sky and another portion of the ultraviolet rays reflected from the water, reflected from the sun, and affecting your skin from another direction. So most of the time, you risk more sun damage when you stay on the beach near to the water or when you enjoy life on the boat or swimming or snorkeling, and you should keep it in mind. Especially the reflection can be dangerous for the eye health. So it is very important to wear sunglasses. If you want to have some scientific basis and some objective to know how intense the ultraviolet is, we have two very useful indexes. So what you should know about the smart protection. It should be based on the intensity of the ultraviolet, and we have the index of ultraviolet in all kinds of modern media application on your phone. And another index, it is the air quality index, because the air pollution intensify and can even multiply the potential skin damage caused by the ultraviolet, because air pollution is toxic. Microparticles dioxin, different toxins circulated in the air, they intoxicate the skin and they cause the oxidative damage in the skin. The same thing which is caused by the ultraviolet. When they meet together on your skin, they are very friendly to each other and very hostile to your skin structure. So your skin is a higher risk in the summer days when you are living in the big city. You should check the ultraviolet index and air quality index every day before going out. That's my advice to you. If the ultraviolet index is low, you are in the green zone. But how low it is? 1 or 2? If you are living in some warm area, if you're living in the Mediterranean region or tropical region, it's almost never 1 or 2, except for very early morning and very late evening. But if you're in Great Britain or in northern country, very probably it will be 1 or 2 during the long period of the year, literally all the autumn, winter, and the part of the spring. So it's very situational. If the ultraviolet index is higher than 3, you should protect your skin. In the frame from 3 to 5, it would be enough to protect your skin with sun protection with 30-35 SPF if you don't spend more than 20-30 minutes in a row exposed to the direct sun rays. If the index is higher than 6, you should use very intense sun protection. If the index is higher than 8, you should stay out of the ultraviolet and avoid the exposure to the ultraviolet as much as you can, using the most intense sun protection and using clothes, including hat, long sleeves, long trousers. And if the index of the ultraviolet is higher than 11, you should stay indoors. If you can. If you're obliged to go outdoors, you should protect your skin very intensely using all means of protection. But also we have the air quality index, you remember? And with an air quality, the ultraviolet index works only when you have good quality air. And good quality air by the air quality index is from 0 till 50. When the air quality index is higher than 50, until 100, we call it moderate air pollution, but still it intensifies the ultraviolet damage in your skin. So even when ultraviolet index is moderate, for example, 4, but the air quality index is 70, you should protect your skin more intensely, like the people living in the clean area of our planet should protect their skin when the ultraviolet is intense, like 6 or 7. If the air quality index is higher than 100, unfortunately it happens in so many areas around us. Big part of our planet is very polluted. You should protect your skin intensely even the ultraviolet index is low, because air pollution just intensifies the skin damage. So if you are living in big cities, if you are living in the country where the air pollution level is high, forget about SPF 30. Buy SPF 50 and try to protect your skin with clothes as well. Wear big sunglasses, wear hat, wear long sleeve, long trousers. Don't go out, especially during summer months, without any sleeves or in shorts or in the short skirt. Our body has a natural protection from the ultraviolet. Unfortunately, it's not sufficient when you expose to the ultraviolet excessively. But still, we have 2 mechanisms responsible for the protection of our skin against this damage and rays. First, called autophagy, and another mechanism, it is our antioxidant protection. What is an autophagy? It is housekeeping process in our skin, when our cells just cleaning the environment around themselves. It plays a vital role in protecting skin from sun damage, and first and foremost, it protects our skin from the cancer development. It's clearing all damaged cellular components. It removes accumulated toxins. It removes accumulated damaged proteins, oxidized lipid, everything what was caused by the ultraviolet-induced oxidative stress. And even more, the autophagy process can help to repair the damaged DNA in the skin. So the cells would not be killed, but will be repaired. Also, the autophagy suppresses the inflammation and maintains the skin longevity and skin survival rate. But as you probably guess, the autophagy is more active in our young age. From the age of 30, 35, autophagy start to slow down. And in our 60s, the autophagy become quite weak. But still, there are some opportunity to activate the autophagy and reduce the skin damage. What can activate the autophagy process in your body and in your skin, respectively? First, it is your behavior. And speaking about behavior, we are speaking mostly about the food, about the diet, because in the diet, it's not only about the quality of the food you eat and the quantity of the food you eat, but also it is about the timing. And by the way, the diet can help you to improve the sleep, and the play with the food timing can help to improve your circadian rhythms, and it can activate the autophagy. To activate the autophagy, we have the scientific proof that intermittent fasting can help to do it. But it would not be the intermittent fasting, which is kind of simple, when you have this 8 hours or 12 hours window during the every day when you can eat, and another 12 or 16 hours when you don't eat. Yes, it helps our body, but mostly it improves your metabolic health. If you want to activate the autophagy, you should take a break from eating for 24 until 36 hours, at least twice a month. If you can do it, beautiful. You can activate the autophagy yourself, and it really helps to protect your skin even when you are overexposed to the ultraviolet. But if it is causing you too much of stress, even this day of hunger, you feel unhappy, stressed, and cannot think about anything else except for food, please don't do it. Because the stress reduces the autophagy process. So it just negates the effect of intermittent fasting. When we are exposed to high level of the stress, it activates the inflammatory process in our skin and increases the level of the ultraviolet damage. So another tool to reduce the ultraviolet damage is reduce the stress. And all kind of stress control methods will be good. Mindfulness, meditation, yoga, moderate physical activity, music, everything which makes you feel happier, helps to protect your skin against ultraviolet. Another thing, it is a healthy sleep. From 7 to 9 hours of healthy sleep during the night helps to repair DNA. That's how our circadian process works. And actually, autophagy is mostly the nice process. And also, we can play with the quality of the diet. Ketogenic diet with high protein, low carbs helps to activate the autophagy as well. And there are polyphenols, especially in the green tea and red grape, and some other healthy vegetables and fruits also can activate the autophagy, as well as some supplements. Among these supplements, which are known as autophagy activators, are spermidine, resveratrol, luteolin, curcumin, berberine, and piperlongumine. And also we have the antioxidant protection, which can be included to our diet as healthy diet full of vegetables and fruits. Antioxidants, they are very recognizable in our foods because literally all natural pigments, they have antioxidant property. So when your food is colorful, it means that you protect your skin against the ultraviolet during the whole day, few hours after you add something, after you've been eating something colorful on your plate. But also we can use antioxidant supplementation and antioxidant skincare, especially for the area of our skin which are more vulnerable and exposed to the ultraviolet. But despite all this natural protection, obviously, we have a lot of opportunity and a lot of methods and products helping to protect our skin from the ultraviolet, what we call the sun protection. And I will discuss about it in the next episode. So stay tuned, and if you have some question, please leave them in the comments. I will be happy to help. Thank you for joining us today on the Matter Beauty podcast. If you found this helpful, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an expert skincare tip. Have a question or topic you'd like for me to cover? Send me a message at podcast@matterbeauty.com, and let's keep the conversation going. Also, you can visit matterbeauty.com and discover Matter Skincare, which I created. And if you enjoyed the show, I'd love if you left a review. It helps others find the podcast and keeps us growing. Until next time, stay healthy, stay glowing, and take care of your skin.